Requesting all of you to be seated. A very good evening to all of you present here. I'm Olivia Valiant, and it's my privilege to welcome you all to the India Forward Talk series, a platform that consistently brings together thought leaders, policy makers, and industry pioneers. This series is dedicated to shaping conversation around India's growth, innovation, and future trajectory. The birth of Chamber coincided with a pivotal period in our nation's history, marked by the First World War of Independence in 1857, and the early aspirations of a people seeking self-rule. What began as a modest exchange among three British businessmen has since evolved into an institution defined not only by its age, but by its purpose, relevance, and resilience. Today, we are deeply honored to have a visionary who has not only transformed India's IT, but also redefined corporate governance, leadership in India. Padma Vibhushan N.R. Narayana Murthy, sir, as our esteemed guest of honor. Sir once said, the future of India lies in creating opportunities for millions. Education, entrepreneurship, and ethics will shape India's destiny. This evening, we gather here to explore insights that will help to unlock that potential and drive our nation's progress. Ladies and gentlemen, it's with deepest and most profound pride that I invite a leader of uncommon honor, unbending integrity, and enduring gesture. The founder of Infosys, the architect of India's digital revolution, and a true legend in every word of the measure. Padma Vibhushan Shri N.R. Narayana Murthy, sir, onto the dais. May I also request our President and Vice President to accompany our guest of honor. Beyond Chamber's rich legacy and strong policy advocacy, it makes immense pride in association with several leading chambers across the country. At the global level, the Chamber continues to expand its footprints by fostering strong relationships with consulates and international chambers from countries including Indonesia, Australia, Thailand, Vietnam, Sri Lanka, and Germany, to name a few. We are also proud to formalize our relationships through signing MOUs with esteemed institutions such as Maharashtra Chamber of Commerce, Industry and Agriculture and the Latvian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, reinforcing our commitment to collaboration, knowledge exchange, and business growth. Ladies and gentlemen, we now move forward with the formal proceedings of today's program, the India Forward Talk series. To begin, I would like to invite our President, Madam Vinodini Sukumar, for the welcome address.
A very good evening to all the distinguished guests, respected dignitaries, and dear friends present here. It's with immense pride, deep gratitude, and a powerful sense of purpose that I stand before you to welcome you to this landmark event, the India Forward Talk series, hosted by the Cochin Chamber of Commerce and Industry. The India Forward Talk series is our flagship initiative, bringing together some of the brightest, most respected minds of our nation to engage in bold, honest, and forward-looking conversations on India Forward. Launched in 2021, this series has consistently focused on the pillars that define our nation's progress, be it sustainability, infrastructure, governance, policy, or education. Over time, it has evolved into a powerful platform, one that sparks thought, drives dialogue, and inspires action across sectors. And today, as we gather here, we are not just participants, we are contributors to India's journey towards a stronger, more prosperous tomorrow. Over the years, we've had the privilege of hosting several distinguished luminaries, Shri Nitin Gadkari, Shri Jairam Ramesh, Shri Yashwant Sinha, Shri Subhash Chandra Garg, Srimati Aruna Sundarajan, Shri D. Subbarao, Shri Montek Singh Aluwalia, Shri Surjit Bhalla, Shri S. Gurumurthy, Mr. Abdullah bin Damitan, Dr. Shashi Tharoor. Notably, during our 150th Chamber Day, we were deeply honored by the presence of the former President of India, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. During the 160th Chamber Day, the former Vice President of India, Shri M. Venkaiah Naidu, graced the occasion, and on the 165th Chamber Day, the former Governor of Kerala, Shri Arif Muhammad Khan, enriched the gathering with his presence. Continuing this legacy, At the 169th Chamber Day, we had the privilege of hosting Shri Palanivel Tyagarajan, Honorable Minister for Information Technology and Digital Services, Government of Tamil Nadu, who added great value to the occasion with his esteemed presence. We also had the budget analysis recently by the Chief Economic Advisor to the Government of India, Shri Anantha Nageshwaran. Today, we are truly privileged and deeply honored to host an iconic leader whose vision has played a defining role in shaping modern India's technology landscape, Padma Vibhushan and Padma Shri awardee, Shri Narayana Murthy, founder of Infosys. Sir, your journey is an inspiration to millions, and your thoughts continue to guide India's aspirations towards excellence and integrity. On behalf of the Cochin Chamber of Commerce and Industry, I extend to you our warmest and most heartfelt welcome. I also extend a warm welcome to Shri Gurkaran Singh Bains, IRS Commissioner of Customs. He said he will be here in 5 minutes. I extend a warm welcome to industry leaders, entrepreneurs, policymakers, representatives from other industry trade bodies, the Women Entrepreneur Network, the Thai Kerala Management Association, and all our distinguished guests present here. Your presence here today is a reflection of a collective commitment to progress, dialogue, and shared learning. I take this opportunity to warmly acknowledge the presence of our Vice President, Shri Bibu Punnooran, and our Executive Committee members, former presidents, and respected members of the Chamber. Events of this significance are made possible through strong partnerships and continued collaboration. We express our deep appreciation to our esteemed sponsors, Smacon Technologies Private Limited, Verdin Telemetry and Antenna Systems Private Limited, and Sud Chemi India Private Limited for their valuable support and association. Distinguished guests, we stand today at a pivotal moment in India's technological and economic journey. From the early days of IT services to becoming a global digital powerhouse, India's startup and technology ecosystem has evolved remarkably, driven by innovation, resilience, and entrepreneurial spirit. In a time when India stands at the cusp of unprecedented opportunity, the question before us is not merely about growth, but about the quality and direction of that growth. A desirable architecture for India's aspiration to prosperity. This is a subject of today, and it invites us to think beyond conventional frameworks and examine how we can build systems that are robust and adaptive as well as equitable. Prosperity in its true sense is not defined by numbers alone. It is shaped by the strength of our institutions, the integrity of our leadership, the inclusiveness of our policies, our ability to innovate while staying grounded in core values. Designing such an architecture requires clarity of vision, consistency in execution, and above all, a long-term commitment to nation building. It is therefore most fitting that we are guided this evening by a leader who embodies these very principles. Shri Narayana Murthy is not only a pioneer who helped place India firmly on the global technology map, but also a firm believer in ethical leadership, governance, and purposeful enterprise. His journey offers invaluable lessons on how enduring institutions are built with patience, discipline, and an unwavering adherence to values. For nearly 169 years, the Cochin Chamber of Commerce and Industry has remained a steadfast institution in Kerala's economic landscape. Through changing times, we have evolved with purpose, facilitating dialogue, enabling enterprise, and contributing to policy conversations that shape business and industry. Our legacy is rooted in connecting people, ideas, and opportunities across geographies and generations. As we come together this evening, let us view this not just a gathering, but as a platform to exchange perspectives, to challenge assumptions, and to collectively reflect on the path ahead. Because meaningful progress is built through collaboration, shared vision, and the willingness to engage in thoughtful dialogue. With that spirit, I warmly welcome our chief guest, Padma Vibhushan, Shri Narayana Murthy, our distinguished dignitaries, and all our valued participants today. Let us look forward to an evening of insight, inspiration, and purposeful conversation. Thank you.
Let's commence our event by lighting the lamp. It's a symbolic moment that signifies the dispelling of darkness, igniting of thoughts and enlightenment. It's our pleasure to invite the guest of honor, Shri Narayana Murthy sir, to do the honors, followed by the rest of the dignitaries on the dais. One of the most profound observation of Murthy sir reminds us that success is not merely about personal achievements, but making a meaningful difference. As sir rightly said, a nation's progress is not just defined by wealth alone, but the values it chooses to uphold. Today, we are here to be inspired by such powerful ideas and perspectives. Ladies and gentlemen, to formally introduce our guest of honor, may I now invite the Executive Committee member of Cochin Chamber and also the CEO of DP World Cochin, Shri Dibin Kayat, onto the stage. Over to you, sir.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I hope all of you are comfortable. So today I've been given a task of introducing somebody who actually needs no introduction, not only here, but anywhere he goes. So I'll try to do justice to the task assigned. So our speaker here is widely regarded as the face of Indian IT industry. And why? Because he is the one who developed and implemented the global delivery model for software services. That is the cornerstone of the Indian software services industry, and that is something which made the industry so powerful and well regarded across the world. He's the founder of Infosys, which is a listed company on the New York Stock Exchange and the Bombay Stock Exchange. And under his eminent leadership, Infosys has emerged as a global leader in innovation, corporate governance, talent development, and customer-focused technology services. He is also a recipient of numerous global recognition and honors, including India's second highest civilian award, the Padma Vibhushan. He is also awarded the Francis Legion of Honor and UK's Commander of the Order of the British Empire. He was also named as one of the 12 greatest entrepreneurs of our time by Fortune, and he is ranked among the world's most admired business leaders by The Economist. He was also elected to the prestigious American Academy of Arts and Sciences, and he is also a foreign member of the United States National Academy of Engineering and a fellow of the Indian National Academy of Engineering. He has served on the boards of prestigious institutions such as United Nations Foundation, the Ford Foundation, HSBC, and Unilever. He has also been associated with leading academic institutions worldwide like Cornell, Wharton, Stanford, and the University of Oxford. He currently serves as a trustee of the Infosys Science Foundation, which awards the prestigious Infosys Prize for recognizing the excellence in research and science. Please join me in extending a warm and heartfelt welcome to our distinguished speaker, Mr. Narayana Murthy. It's truly an honor, sir, to have such an inspiring visionary and pioneer amongst us. We are privileged to hear his invaluable insights drawn from decades of leadership, innovation, and excellence. Over to you, sir.
Kerala, whether it is the northern part or the southern part, one thing excites me, and that is, if the rest of India can indeed follow the level of public cleanliness, then our country would progress a lot. Because one principle I learned very early in my life is, unless you keep your public space clean, your offices clean, your schools clean, there's really no possibility of your exhibiting excellence in what you do. I only hope we'll learn from your state and become better before we can aspire to a better level of prosperity. Well, distinguished members of the Kochi Chambers, friends from the government, industry, and various professions, thank you very much for this warm, kind, and generous welcome. Kochi, that is Cochin, carries history in its bones. Long before the word globalization existed, this harbor was already the world's crossroads, a place where Arab traders, Portuguese admirals, Chinese merchants, and Jewish spice dealers struck deals on the same waterfront. When this chamber was founded in 1857, the industrial world was being remade with steam and steel. Today, in 2026, we face a reshaping no less radical, only this time it is driven by silicon, software, and the restless ambition of 1 billion Indians. The question I want to wrestle with this evening is deceptively simple. That is, how do we make India not merely growing, not merely emerging? I am sick and tired of hearing this emerging country for the last 60 years, ever since I was 20 years, 21, 22, when I went to France to work there. But structurally and irreversibly prosperous. That is our target. That is our ambition. That is our aspiration. Singapore did it right in front of our eyes. South Korea did it. As you all know, India and South Korea had the same per capita GDP in 1952. Today, their per capita GDP is probably about 8 to 10 times that of India. Singapore was like Chennai when I first visited in 1967. But today, Singapore has surpassed the United States in per capita GDP with somewhere around US dollars 92,000 plus in its per capita GDP. So we have examples right in front of our eyes, right in our lives, that tells us that it is possible for India too to dream that. Similarly, China did it. China demonstrated that last year it exported $3.6 trillion US. $3.6 trillion US. And you know what US did at the same year? $2 trillion. In other words, China's exports were approximately twice that of the US, about 1.8 times. China created another record, and that is, for the first time in the history of this planet, a country created a trade surplus of $1 trillion. That is, exports minus imports was $1 trillion. The point I'm making is right in front of us. As you people know, China and India were almost at the same level as late as 1978. But today, China is about 6 times in their GDP, around that in per capita GDP too, because we have very similar populations. None of these countries did it by accident. They did it by design and by an almost unreasonable refusal to accept the second best. Today, I want to sketch 5 pillars on which that design which I have mentioned must rest. First is, of course, high aspiration. This is psychological. It is all about relentless refusal to be ordinary. Every one of us, our children, our grandchildren must say, we have seen other countries in our own midst do it. Why can't we do it? Therefore, we will do it. In 1945, Germany and Japan, as you all know, or at least the older ones here know, were reduced to just rubble. What rebuilt them was not only the Marshall Plan and the other US-sponsored plans for reconstruction of these two countries. It was a collective decision made by millions of individuals in these two countries to pursue excellence with something close to fury. The famous sociologist Max Weber saw this impulse long before that. And he said that disciplined, aspirational work, ethic, is the spark that actually lit the Industrial Revolution. Therefore, what we need today, according to the well-known political scientist Deirdre McCloskey, is what she calls bourgeois dignity. What is that bourgeois dignity? She believes that bourgeois dignity flourishes in a society that genuinely honors the innovator and the wealth creators. All of you are innovators and wealth creators assembled here. And not the rent seeker or the license holder. We have all gone through that. You know, India was a license Raj. And even today we see a lot of rent seeking around us, right? Now, as long as our brightest young people in Kerala and elsewhere in India see a government posting or a government job as the safest price, folks, we are actually burning our best fuel even before the engine starts. Aspiration builds civilization. We all know that. It's a very famous saying. But aspiration alone is not enough. Without a free market framework, ambition indeed becomes frustration. We have all gone through that phase. I used to be a strong socialist, leftist, before I went to France in early 70s. And I was completely confused because we had been told time and again that leftism was the only solution to India becoming more prosperous. But when I went and saw in France that roads were clean, everybody was well clothed, everybody was well fed, trains ran on time, telephones worked, all of that. Then I realized that there was something wrong in my thinking. And that's when I was transformed from a confused leftist to a determined, compassionate capitalist. Now, Milton Friedman's core insight remains undefeated. And that is, he said, every voluntary exchange between a buyer and a seller creates value for both sides. Otherwise, nobody will buy. Otherwise, nobody will sell. You people know that very well. So it's very important for us to remember that market is not an ideology. It's not thisism, thatism. No, it's not that. It is actually a concept, a technology for turning individual ambition into collective prosperity. Now, what is it that we need to do? First, of course, we have to discover the alchemy of work. Indians are very proud of working hard, no doubt about it. Particularly people from Kerala, when they go outside, I don't know in Kerala because I have not lived here, but outside their own state, outside India, Kerala people are one of the hardest working people, most sincere. However, I do want to respectfully complicate that pride. Indians have a lot of pride in saying we work hard. However, I want to respectfully complicate that pride. What do I mean by that? That is, hard work without discipline, without quality, and without precision is like motion without progress. South Korea's Pali Pali, it's called Pali Pali in South Korea, the famous culture of hurry, produced infrastructure at a breathtaking speed. But that speed was disciplined and matched by what I would call orchestrated teamwork, with every person playing their part like musicians in a symphony, not soloists competing for the spotlight. I used to be an advisor to the president of South Korea for several years, almost 20 years ago probably. And so I know South Korea pretty well. I used to go there often. And I've studied how they have progressed. As I told you earlier, South Korea and India had just the same per capita GDP in 1952. Today they're about 15 times that of India. Anyway. Economist and Nobel Prize winner Paul Krugman's observation is worth tattooing on the walls of every boardroom. There must be so many boardroom people sitting here. And he said, it's very important to remember, productivity is not everything, but in the long run, it is almost everything. So the key to prosperity is productivity. The key to prosperity is what each one of us can produce in an hour of work. What value measured in whatever you want, rupees or dollars or yuans, whatever it is. Therefore, a nation's standard of living ultimately tracks its output per worker. Not its total GDP, not its headlines. We somehow, all of us, get extremely excited by the total GDP figures, but that's not the real thing. It is output per worker measured in whatever currency you want. That's what determines how prosperous a nation is. Our most dangerous old idea is that cheap labor is our competitive edge. In 2006, that idea is not just wrong, it's totally wrong. In addition, it is actually a trap. You all know that robots do not ask for increments. AI does not take sick leave. You know, I was in the Daimler-Benz factory in Germany several years ago, and it was about 7:15, 7:30 in the night, and the chairman took me around. And we went to the forging shop, and those huge machines, and there was no worker in that place, was banging away at 7:30. And he said, the beauty of this is at 7:30 in the morning, it does it with the same precision, same enthusiasm, same energy as it does at 7:30 p.m. So therefore, we should remember that cheap labor cannot be our competitive advantage because technology is slowly replacing labor. Therefore, the only path toward for that we have is to move from being just the world's back office, world's cheapest manufacturing place, to being the best value producer. How do we do that? We do it by innovation in our laboratories and in our high precision factories. We therefore have to go from being just labor intensive to intellect intensive work. The third pillar that I want to talk about is trust and integrity. Francis Fukuyama, all of you know, is a very famous sociologist, spent a career studying why some nations prosper and others stagnate. His answer distilled to just one word, was trust. Not just trust between friends or family, because that is indeed universal. There's always trust between husband and wife, between parents and children, children and parents, all of that is given all over the world, in every culture. However, what he said was, what distinguishes prosperous nations from poor nations is the level of trust between strangers. That's very important for all of us to note. I want all of you to remember. And that is the confidence that a contract will indeed be honored. All of you are business people, you know the importance of valuing a contract. That a regulator is applying the same rule to everyone. And that the person on the other side of a transaction is not looking for an angle. My friends, corruption is not merely a moral failing. It is an economic catastrophe, as has been proved by economists. Not me, I'm an engineer, I'm not an economist. And it is an immoral one. Corruption is actually a heavy tax on the poor, who cannot afford the workaround. It is a big toll on the entrepreneurs. There are several entrepreneurs here. It's a big toll on the entrepreneur, who either pays the toll, some entrepreneurs pay the toll, and many actually abandon their own venture. And as Tacitus, the great Greek philosopher, observed more than 2,000 years ago, he said, the more corrupt the state, the more numerous the laws. It is extremely important for all of you are well-educated people. It is extremely important for you people to know that as early as 2,000 plus years ago, thinkers, philosophers realized that the more laws a country has, we are known for having lots of laws, right? The more corrupt that country is. It is for all of us to say enough is enough. Second important observation that sociologists make is that complexity is where corruption hides. By creating more and more laws, by creating more and more approvals, by creating more and more steps, the creators are seeking corrupt money. Therefore, the remedy is radical simplicity. Fewer rules, applied equally, enforced consistently, and with no discretionary gaps for rent to accumulate in. All of you know what is meant by rent. Basically, it's corruption. The fourth pillar of the architecture for an aspirational prosperity is what the sociologists call informed leadership. Look at the tiger economies, and you find a striking pattern. As I told you, I used to be an advisor to the president of South Korea. I used to be an advisor to the mayor of Seoul city. I used to be on the board of DBS Bank Singapore. I was a trustee of the Singapore Management University, many things. So I have spent considerable time in these countries. I have studied, I have understood, I have talked to people, I have listened. And when you look at these tiger economies, you find a striking pattern that the people running the government are not merely politically skilled, they are intellectually formidable. This is a very important point. Singapore and South Korea treated governance as a technical discipline rather than a performance art, giving big speeches and saying thundering sentences. That is not governance. Governance is a very important technical discipline. Their cabinets in Singapore and South Korea were populated by engineers, by economists, successful, highly accomplished engineers, economists, and scientists. That is, people who understood the difference between the nominal and real GDP growth rate, who knew what the middle income trap was and how to escape from it. And these are the people who could model the second order effects of a tariff change, tariff increase before signing it. This is not elitism. This is certainly not elitism. Pilots who do not understand the basics of aerodynamics, they're not being humble. They're actually dangerous. They should not be allowed to fly a plane. So, knowing the innards of what functions one performs is a basic requirement if any country wants to move forward. India has no shortage of intellectual talent. What we need is a culture that routes the talent towards public service. And more importantly, a public that demands it. That is the biggest challenge we have, that we need a public that says, we want the best people to be in our government, and we want the most meritorious people to run the government. So we need a culture that votes in the most meritorious and most value-based people into positions of power. The fifth pillar is what I term the social compact. That is, putting the interest of the society ahead of one's own personal interest. The deepest secret of every prosperous society is very simple. That is, its citizens have agreed without a formal written contract to treat shared spaces and shared institutions as valuable as their own. In Japan, the word omotenashi describes a public hospitality so thorough that it extends to strangers in train stations. I've been to Tokyo so many times. I have experienced it. to payments at midnight. In Tokyo, you can walk at 2 o'clock. There is absolutely no worry. A lady can walk at 2 o'clock, absolutely no worry. To rivers running through city centers. I may tell you a very interesting conversation I had with the wife of my brother-in-law, that is Sudha's younger brother's wife. Sudha's younger brother, Srinivas, has been a professor of astrophysics at Caltech for about 43 years. As you know, Caltech is number one in the world in physics. His wife, Hiromi, she's Japanese. And one day we were having lunch at home, and she said, Japan is losing its character. I said, Hiromi, what happened? She said, earlier, if we saw a purse lying on the road, none of us would go near that. But the other day, a young man took that purse from the middle of the road and kept it on the sidewalk and he left. How can you ever touch a purse that belongs to somebody else? So therefore, she said, in my opinion, Japan is going down. You can imagine their level of integrity, their level of honesty, and ours. So that is the thing. Citizens keep public spaces clean because they have internalized the idea that public space is their space. I must say that in this index, Kerala is far, far better than all other Indian states. There is no doubt about it. It's such a pleasure to come to your cities, your towns, and see how you have built a culture of keeping the public space clean. That's something all of us have to learn. In India, we too often treat the public space as belonging to no one. No one. That's why there is corruption. Because public money, government money, it's nobody's money. Anybody can take it, right? There are reasons why India is like that. I don't want to go into that. We must remember that private excellence cannot survive in public squalor. It's very important for us to remember. You can build the most beautiful office tower in the world, and if the road outside there are potholes and the gutter runs open beside it, folks, you have not built prosperity. There's no prosperity in that place. You just built a small oasis. And please remember, oases do not grow economies. There is no place in the world where there is an oasis, where there is a desert, and it has made people more prosperous there. It is very important to remember the words of Edmund Burke, who wrote in his book, The Reflections on the Revolution in France, as early as 1790. It's probably about 236 years ago. And he said, a nation is a partnership among the dead, the living, and those yet to be born. Therefore, we must invest in things we may not live to see completed, and maintain what we have inherited from our previous generation as if it belonged to our children, because it indeed does. And it's particularly true of public spaces. It's particularly true of our character, particularly true of, other characteristics. Having talked about the 5 pillars, now, what is the triple mandate, triple compact, if we want to achieve a desirable prosperity for India? There are 3 major players in this, and I'll talk about what each of us should do. One, of course, is the business community, you people. You're the most important player in that because you create wealth, you create jobs. Without you, and you pay taxes so that public governance system can indeed work. So without you, there is absolutely no hope for the country to become more prosperous for the poorest people. First, remember that jugaad was never a strategy. It was just a coping mechanism. It is ingenious, yes, but it's not sufficient for a prosperous future. That's very important for Indians to know, because in India, wherever I go, they, jugaad, we'll do this, we'll work around, we'll do this, and we'll progress. No. The world will not pay a premium for workarounds. Kindly remember that. It will pay a premium for German-level precision, for Korean-level speed, for Israeli-level innovation, and for Chinese-level smart and hard work. That's it. I've been to about 80, 90 countries in the world. I've observed the prosperous countries, poor countries, middle income countries, all of them. But one thing is certain, that is, that premium, the world will only give premium for what you produce if you have German level precision, Korean level speed, Israeli level innovation, and Chinese level smart and hard work. Therefore, please invest in R&D. Embrace Schumpeter's creative destruction, that you yourself give up the old methods and innovate new ones and absorb them quickly before the market destroys you. That's something very important for you to remember. That's what Schumpeter, as you know, the famous Austrian sociologist, economist, that's what he said. Creative destruction. And remember that if this country has to progress, compassionate capitalism is the only solution we have. No other isms have ever delivered any value to any society in the world on a long-term basis. That's the reality. And I hitchhiked for 11 months from Paris to my hometown, Mysore. And I would stand at a gas station, somebody would give me a lift. So like that, I did. I spent only about $4 a day. This is 52 years ago. I have seen Western Europe, I have seen Eastern Europe, I had seen Soviet Union, I had seen Middle East, I had seen Israel, I had seen Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan. Of course, at that time we were not allowed into Pakistan, so I had to take a flight from Kabul to Amritsar. The point I'm making is that the only way that this country can indeed become prosperous is if we embraced compassionate capitalism. But compassionate capitalism means the leaders of capitalism must have compassion. They must care for the poorest worker in the factory. They must ensure that salary increases are first given to that poor worker before they take their own salary increase. Therefore, they have to eat last. The corporate leaders must be the people who will eat last every day when they take decisions. Now let me come to what is it that we can expect from the government. The government has to transform to become a service state, not a control state, not a gatekeeper state. If a young woman in a Kerala town wants to build the next biotech company, the path to her first license should be as smooth in Thrissur as it is today in Palo Alto. That should be the objective of the public governance system. They should say that we as human beings, we in Kerala, are no less than anybody else in the world. Therefore, we will challenge and we will make sure that our regulations, our licensing system will be faster than what it is in Palo Alto, which has become the cradle of innovation in the world. Your government is also expected to remember that every day of unnecessary friction by the governments is a business not started. If we take away the enthusiasm of an entrepreneur, maybe today he is very enthusiastic to start something. Tomorrow he may say, no, I don't want this. There's a lot of harassment. So he may stop being an entrepreneur. That means it's a business not started. It is a number of jobs not created. It is taxes not paid. And most importantly, it's a dream that has been deferred or destroyed. Now, let me come to what the professionals, there are several professionals assembled here, adopt what I call the Shifu mindset. Shifu is again an East Asian word. And if you adopt the Shifu mindset, you will become so genuinely excellent in your work that the world has to appreciate. The world has to come to you to buy and not look away, because what you produce is most valuable to the world. I've always told my younger colleagues at Infosys that performance earns recognition, recognition earns respect, and respect earns influence and power. Therefore, the only power worth having is performance. And that's the only power that lasts. Remember that. There's nothing else that lasts, because rest are all just bullshit talk. Bullshit, this thing. It's no value. Amartya Sen wrote that what matters for a person or for a nation is not what you have. It's not what you have today, but what you are capable of doing. That is really what matters to every individual. That's what matters to your children. That's what matters to your grandchildren. Not what I have, but what I can be, what I can do. That's why every parent wants their children to perform better than them, because they have realized this wonderful words of Amartya Sen, that what matters is not what I have today, but what my children can do tomorrow. India has the data, demographics, and the digital infrastructure. That's one area where India has done a wonderful job, digital infrastructure. There are very few countries in the world which have been as successful in creating a digital infrastructure that India has done. We also have the intellectual capital. There's no doubt about it. We are building the collective discipline. We are building the willingness to put the team, the community, and the nation ahead of ourselves. That's it. Therefore, the need of the day for all of us is to build that character, to put the interests of the society ahead of personal interest, not to violate any laws of the land, to pay all our taxes properly, to keep our public spaces clean, to ensure that whatever duties we have are fulfilled 100%. Folks, what I am asking for is not a miracle. It's really not a miracle. I spoke about the architecture, I spoke about the 5 pillars, and all that I am asking for is just a redesign. Singapore was not lucky to become much richer than, per capita, richer than America. South Korea was not lucky to become, 10 or 12 times the per capita GDP of India. They made hard choices. They made tough choices. They made aspirational choices because they had a dream. They had national pride. They wanted their countries to be a place where the poorest man had access to more than just the basic needs of education, healthcare, shelter, nutrition, etc., etc. They wanted every citizen to be prosperous. And that was not very unglamorous. They're not very glamorous when they made these choices. So therefore, they made choices about education, governance, integrity, and welcoming foreign investment. Folks, we too can make those choices. In fact, we must if we really want. Finally, let us leave this hall today carrying high aspirations in our minds and steel in our spine. Let us build the India of 2047, as our respected Prime Minister has exhorted all of us to do. Let's do it with the imagination of a poet, the rigor of a scientist, the courage of a soldier, and the patience of a craftsman, shaping stone after stone to create something that will stand long after we are all gone. Folks, the Indian dream is not a distant star. We are already walking its landscape. Let us build it worthy of those who will come after us, our children, our grandchildren, great-grandchildren, so that they can indeed be proud of us. Thank you very much. A woman and a man. Start off with a woman, and then man, then women, man, etc. Because generally I find in India men are so aggressive that they will not allow women to ask any question. Please do. Yeah.
Part of Thai Kerala. So thank you for this beautiful session. We really, really inspired. I have a very simple question. You spoke about that hitchhiking from, that long distance, and you spoke about all the countries that you visited. I'd love to hear more about how you did that with $4 a day budget and covering all those countries. I would like to listen to a little more about that journey.
Now, can you put it as a simple question?
Okay. More about that journey where you spoke about your experience.
Which journey? The hitchhiking?
Yes, yes.
Well, that will probably take about 8 hours. But however, say this, when I said, look, it's fine, France is great, it's clean, it's rich, it's prosperous, all of that. I said, I want to go back to my country and do something there, because whatever little I do will be more valuable to India than to France, than if I did it in France. And while I was planning to do that, I discussed with a few French friends of mine. And one of them suggested, why don't you hitchhike your thing? That will also bring some fun to you, some excitement, some adventure. And in the process, you will see a lot of countries. I saw so many countries, France, Italy, then Austria, Germany, then Poland, Czechoslovakia, Poland, Hungary, Soviet Union, Romania, then Iraq, Iran, Israel, Jordan, and then of course Afghanistan, and then India. So they said, this will also give you a better data for your belief that the only way a country can bring in prosperity is through creation of jobs with good disposable income, and that only entrepreneurs do, not government, not any foreign aid, none of that will make that happen. The only people who will create jobs are entrepreneurs. And when every one of us works hard, we export more, we sell more within the country, and therefore we get better and better income, etc. So they said, why don't you collect some more data by looking at all these, 20 and odd nations that you are going through. So I spent 11 months. As I told you, I spent about $4 a day. Most places I slept in railway stations, except in the communist part. They are different kinds of people. Let me put it this way. I don't want to say any more. There it is not as, individuals don't have as much freedom at those days. Now, of course, communism is dead outside India. We all know that. So, but whether it's Poland, Soviet Union, Hungary, all of that, they were all communist nations. But even there, I found that the aspirations of people were exactly the same as in Western Europe. They wanted their children to get better job. They wanted their children to study better. They wanted their children to be healthier, to grow taller. They wanted their children to have better disposable income. So I didn't see any difference between the citizens, men and women of a communist country and men and women of a capitalist country. And I also saw how communist countries were suffering. Unfortunately, it's sad. But later on they gave up on communism because they realized that it didn't work. That's how Czechoslovakia, Poland, Hungary, Romania, they all gave up. But those days, it was a contrast between the developed Western democracies and the communist Eastern Europe and Soviet Union. It was a good lesson. And of course, I went to Greece. I forgot to tell that, yeah.
Be the future of India's software as a service industry once generative AI or agentic AI becomes more widespread, advances further? Thank you.
Remember that the purpose of technology is to improve the productivity of human beings, is to bring comfort to human beings, is to solve certain problems for human beings. For example, medical diagnosis. Today, you have a lot more technology in medical diagnosis than what it was 50 years ago. So it has made our lives better. So technology has to be used in an assistive manner. And there are areas where technology will replace human beings. For example, autonomous cars. That's very good because it makes driving much safer. There was an experiment conducted in the US, and they found that as against the human beings driving cars, where there was an accident rate of 7 or 8 per million, when autonomous driving happened, it was only 2. So it is safer, it's better for human beings. Similarly, in medical diagnosis, technology helps. So the point is to use AI, agentic AI, or generative AI, all of them, deep learning, then machine learning, to use supervised algorithms, to use self-learning algorithms, to make human beings more productive, more comfortable, to solve problems for human beings, all of that. As long as we use technology in such a way, I don't think there is any worry. Second thing, you must remember that if you want to become a master of technology and not become a victim of technology, you must work hard. Some people are bright, God has given them brightness, so they will easily do it, but most human beings are not that smart, therefore they have to work hard. And then they will be able to master the technology. Absolutely no doubt. I mean, there are many examples, I don't want to spend time here, whether it was the introduction of core banking software in the UK in 1971 when the unions opposed, and then the intellectuals and the CEOs sat down with the union and convinced them that actually there will be better growth of banks if technology is allowed. And that's exactly what happened. For example, when India introduced core banking in 1989, there were very few banks, very few branches Today that is multiplied by probably a factor of 50 or 100, I don't know, it's a huge factor. So more jobs have been created. So my belief is, if intelligent people and normal people, they work hard, I think we will become masters of technology, and we will use technology for creating more jobs. But we may do different kinds of jobs. We may do higher level jobs rather than doing drudgery kind of jobs. So I'm not worried about any of these technologies.
Dhanya Praveen, I'm the director of Midhan Technologies Private Limited. One small thing related to something which he asked, like since AI is rapidly growing, so what is the one advice you would want to give the youth of today?
All that AI is doing is, it is automating rule-based, deterministic work, or algorithms that are rule-based and deterministic, some cases stochastic too, but by and large deterministic. So it's helping us to upgrade ourselves, upgrade our thinking, to move towards better judgment. So all of us should try to use our mind more and more on how to use this. Let me tell you, in the last 3-4 years, this lecture was actually, the draft was produced by Claude 4.6 Opus. All of you know that, right? It is by Anthropic. And then I put in some effort, I improved my prompts, all of that. What it told me was, the more thinking you are in putting the prompts to generative AI, the better is the quality of draft. So, intelligent people, thinking people will always win against any technology. Because technology will force you to do more and more thinking, more and more judgments, more and more decision making, more and more communication with other human beings. So I think, please remember that AI is providing you opportunity to think more, to provide better decision making, to come to better judgment, etc. So the whole thing of judgment, decision making, intuition, all of those and other human characteristics will not be taken away by AI. That will not happen. So that will always be there. All that we need to do is to graduate towards work that requires these attributes more than just doing a clerical job all the time. I remember before core banking solution came to India, banks, I have seen some relatives of mine sitting in the bank up to 9:30, 10 to close the book. They were not balancing the book. They were not able to balance the book. But once core banking solutions came, by 5 o'clock, it is all balanced. They could go home, be with their children. So technology will help you to use your time better. But for that to happen, you have to use your brain a little bit more. That's all.
Yes, sir. Just one question. I'm Ajit Moopan, entrepreneur and angel investor. So you mentioned Asian tigers, and those in the leadership were not only visionaries, but also people of great technocrats or great professional acumen. Now, we in our political system, we are far from that in India. How do you recommend that we get there, we transform to that excellence?
I can only point out here is Singapore, here is South Korea, here is China. China, same, much bigger country than India. They have all made huge progress. So here are these examples. Do you want to learn from them? If you want to learn from them, then we too, India too, can become like them. So that's the best I can do. I am nobody to give advice to any political system, any political party, as to what they should do, what they should not do. There's enough literature, there's enough data around us, but we have to open our minds. We have to open our mind, most importantly our mind. And as I was saying that you can take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. So therefore, my humble request is that there is enough data all around us to see how countries have used good ideas to make the country richer. So we too can use some of that. That's all what I can say.
Continuing in the spirit of building a strong institutional architecture, we now move forward to a very special segment of today's program. The Cochin Chamber marks an important milestone today with the official launch of its member directory. This initiative is designed to strengthen connectivity, enable collaboration, and foster meaningful business engagement. May I now respectfully invite our chief guest to unveil. Gentlemen, we are proud to present to you the Cochin Chamber's member directory. With over 400 member companies across diverse sectors, this directory serves as a comprehensive handbook, a powerful tool to simplify interactions, enhance accessibility, and accelerate business growth. Thank you, everyone. Now, to propose the vote of thanks, I would like to invite our Vice President and also the Director of Medivision Scan and Diagnostic Center, Shri Bibu Punnooran, onto the stage. So.
Good evening, one and all. It's been a great evening, I'm sure. And I wouldn't want to end this with a simple formal vote of thanks, because knowing the greatness of the person who has come to address us today, I think I should throw a little bit more of light into his early life. With his permission, of course, I had in the morning, we could sit together for some time, and with the President's permission and with all of your permission, allow me to speak a little bit more into his early life, of which I read about. Character is destiny, and 99 are with dreams content, but the hope of a world made new is the 100th man who is grimly bent on making the dream come true. I'm sure nobody would ever doubt about our chief guest of this evening, Mr. Narayana Murthy, belonging to that 1% of mankind. I'm a great fan of Sudha Murthy and have read many of her books, which are heart-touching and practically appeals to our daily lives. So much so, for our last wedding anniversary, knowing this interest, our daughter gifted me a book titled An Uncommon Love, The Early Life of Sudha and Narayana Murthy. Little did I know about Mr. Narayana Murthy's personal life till then and how principled he was in character and thinking. A few points that I could gather from this book. Sudha Murthy was attracted to Mr. Narayana Murthy much before they met through their love of books. In fact, when he was working in France, he just mentioned about, and I think Anisha also asked the same question. He decided to take a break and hitchhike across entire Europe, Turkey, Afghanistan, etc., etc. His friend Prasanna, who was Sudha Murthy's colleague at Telco, was a voracious reader like herself, and she used to see him with unusually titled books, and on the flyleaf of each book was written with a confident flourish, a name and a place, exotic places like Paris, Rome, Munich, Istanbul, and Kabul. She was fascinated by this variety of books and inquired where he got these from. He said that he used to take these from his friend Mr. Narayana Murthy, who was also a Kannadiga like them, and also added that she would love his collection of books. So Sudha Murthy wanted to meet this global bus conductor, as she termed him. Well, that was the beginning. His first break to a good job of his liking came when he, going through a battery of interviews, was finally selected as head of data processing cell of Hindustan Lever. But on his way out, after accepting the offer, he wanted to use the restroom and regretfully learned that there are different toilets for different classes of employees. This hit him hard, and he went back to the HR head and said that he was withdrawing his acceptance because he believed that no organization can become strong unless there is a feeling of oneness among employees, and that feeling of oneness cannot be complete if they are forced to use different toilets. Such were the principles of this great man. When Azim Premji was scouting for a head of his newly starting IT division, Mr. Murthy's friend Prasanna recommended him for this job. The technical interview with Mr. Azim Premji went on very well, but somehow Mr. Murthy was not offered the job. Later, Mr. Azim Premji has admitted that his gravest error of judgment was not offering Mr. Narayana Murthy the job. Mr. Narayana Murthy is rooted in the principle of treating every employee with fairness, respect, and affection, whether he or she is the newest one or the most experienced. To cite an example, he quit his job at PCS or Patni Computers with a good salary, especially at a time when he needed it most, with a 9-month baby at home, his elderly mother to be looked after, and all other expenses to be met. He did this just because he was treated with disrespect by a relative of the MD of the company, and that was something he could not tolerate. He told himself, "I can't be part of such a system. I have lived without much money before. I can do it again. A fat paycheck is not essential to my happiness, but respect is." But this proved to be the beginning of his entrepreneurial journey when he decided to become self-employed and rely on his instincts to start a software company of his own. But he didn't have any savings or capital, just a dream to start a world-class company. Sudha Murthy, his beloved wife, gave him rupees 10,000, her life savings till then, and that was his initial capital. She told her husband, "Regret is worse than failure. Let's go for a wild ride. It doesn't matter whether it's joyous or bumpy." Years later, Madam Sudha would joke that though she had never been good at economics, she had turned out to be one of the best angel investors in India. Her investment of rupees 10,000 had grown into billions through Infosys. These principles of Mr. Narayana Murthy is something that everyone should emulate. He actually told me not to mention something negative about somebody who did something to him, which I have written down, but then, so since he has told me not to, I will not be doing that. All I can tell you is that even when somebody insulted him, he did call him and honor that person because that person had given him business in life. That's what Mr. Murthy is all about. Interestingly, another point that I read was Infosys could not get a phone connection after setting up office in Bangalore because Mr. Narayana Murthy would not give bribe. And 2 years after the office was set up, in a Chamber of Commerce function in Bangalore, not here, Mr. Murthy and his co-founder, Mr. Raghavan, could meet a Karnataka government senior official, and finally a phone was offered at an exorbitant rental. This he accepted after making sure there was nothing unethical in it. That was Infosys' first phone connection 2 years after its inception. But still, he would not pay bribe to get a phone connection. Struggling to get a loan, he has knocked on doors of several banks for a loan for his company. Once a manager took off his spectacles and shook them at Mr. Murthy, saying that the glasses were a more saleable product than his Infosys software. I wonder where he is right now. Despite all these and even more several challenges, he stuck on to his dream, adhering to principles, adhering to hard work, and made India's greatest software company for the world. A fact that every Indian can be proud of, No words are enough for us to thank this czar of the software world for accepting our invitation and gracing this function. The India Forward session of our 169-year-old Cochin Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Sir, we pay tribute to you. I would request all present here to give a standing ovation to this czar of the Indian industry. May I thank our President, Ms. Vinodini Sukumar, all our MC members, our Secretariat team, and finally to all of you, our dear gentle guests, for gracing us as making this presence this evening very special for us. May I also thank our sponsors, Messrs. Verdant Telemetry and Antenna Systems, Sooth Chemi India, and Spacking Technologies Private Limited for sponsoring this evening. I would like to make a special word of gratitude, or give a special word of gratitude to our Managing Committee member, Mr. Muralidharan Thoykat, who has been instrumental in having Mr. Narayana Murthy with us here this evening. As a token of our appreciation, I invite Mr. Narayana Murthy to kindly come forward and present a memento to our chief guest. Great to have seen all of you come here for this great meeting which was addressed. Let me also thank our Commissioner of Customs, Mr. Singh, for being with us this evening. Thank you very much. Once again, a big thanks to all of you. Thank you. Good night.